Hi, I'm Amanda Watson, and this presentation is about mobile phones in rural villages in Papua New Guinea. The presentation looks at the experience of one island village where they've recently gained mobile phone reception, and this one village is part of a larger study which has ethical clearance from both Queensland University of Technology and Divine Word University in Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea has whole regions with little access to basic services such as health and education, banking infrastructure, telecommunications, media access, transport infrastructure, and so on. And that's why I think the recent introduction of mobile phones into villages like this stands to be so significant. Most research surrounding the introduction of telecommunications to date has been conducted in Western developed settings. There is a growing body of research around mobile phones. Jonathan Donner looked at all the research that's been done on mobile phones to date, and he found that there remains a need to document the different needs and motivations of rural and poor users and non-users of mobile telephony in the developing world. So that's why my research aims to help with addressing this issue. The debate about mobile phones is current, with headlines in the two daily newspapers in Papua New Guinea and lots of letters to the editor and lots of people discussing mobile phones and the progress that's happened in recent years in mobile phones in Papua New Guinea. And no wonder, because investment in this field has been high in recent years since the introduction of competition into the sector, with a new company, Digicel, coming in the middle of 2007. Prior to which there was the government telecommunication provider, which had only limited mobile phone services in urban areas. So the change in coverage in the last 3 years is amazing, really. And here I have some of the different books that have been written about mobile phones around the world. There's certainly a global debate around mobile phones, with researchers questioning whether mobile phones are a good thing or a bad thing in people's lives. For example, are they an economic boon for poor people, or are they a financial burden for poor people? And this is a question that I will come back to later in the presentation. So now I'd like to take you on a trip to Papua New Guinea. We'll fly into Port Moresby, and then we fly on another plane up to Madang, which is a coastal town. Then we'll hop on a boat to go across to Karkar Island. Now, by the time we get our tickets early in the morning at the ferry wharf and wait for the ferry to be loaded and finally get to Karkar, we won't arrive there until the evening. And once we land on Karkar Island, then we'll hop on a truck and we'll travel round the coastal road of the island. And then we get off the truck. It takes about an hour and a half on the truck, and then we have either a walk or a very harrowing four-wheel drive trip up a very rugged road up to the village called Aurora. Now, Aurora is a rather isolated, disadvantaged village on the mountainside on Karkar Island. It doesn't have access to facilities like the coastal villages where there's some stores and things like that. In Aurora, there are no stores, there's no marketplace. At the time that I did my research there in February 2009, there was no electricity supply, no Aurora villages had a mobile phone, had a motor vehicle rather. There's no home telephones. There's very poor access to water in Aurora, and this causes a problem with skin infections like you can see in these children here. And I had experience to see that there seemed to be a lot of sickness in Aurora, so things like yaws, malaria, other illnesses. There is a health centre in the next village, but it's only a relatively small facility with limited means. The hospital is actually right on the other side of the island, and it would be quite difficult for people from Aurora to get there. Now, this presentation will go on to look at the findings in Aurora with respect to mobile phones. You'll note that there's full reception throughout Aurora in the reception bar graph there. And there are some villages on Karkar Island which don't yet have full reception, but certainly throughout Aurora there is mobile phone reception, full reception. So I'm going to focus on this one village because anthropologists have suggested to me that this is a way that we can understand a community in more detail and then perhaps look at other communities and see what's going on there. So the following information in this presentation comes from a survey that I conducted with villagers. I was speaking in Tok Pisin, which is the pidgin language spoken throughout Papua New Guinea, and I was asking questions verbally and writing down their responses. I also made observations that I recorded in a notebook and did 3 in-depth interviews. The garamut is a traditional drum which is still used often in Aurora as a means of communication. In this photo you can see 3 different garamuts, and this leader is drumming his largest garamut. When I was staying in Aurora, I heard the garamut used almost daily to convey a range of messages, such as reminding people about a community working bee, notifying them about a meeting, or informing them about a death. The garamut also, people can recognise their own drum, the timbre of their own drum, and one of my interviewees told me that if he's away from his home and he hears his own drum being beaten, that's like his mobile phone number. In terms of media access in Aurora, there's no televisions in Aurora, there's no television reception there, there's no internet, there's no one who has any computers. In terms of radios, less than half the people told me they have a radio receiver in their homes, but when I actually asked them whether or not it's working, I found out that quite a lot of people's radios are not actually working. They're either broken or they don't have batteries to operate the radio. So in actual fact, less than 1/3 of respondents had access to a working radio receiver in their home. With respect to newspapers, only 15% of people had read a newspaper in the last month before I spoke to them. Looking now at mobile phones, you can see that 1/4 of the people owned a mobile phone when I did my research there in 2009, so about a year after they'd gained mobile phone access and reception. When asked about their usage though, I found that people had quite low usage. So on the day before I spoke to them, 2/3 of my respondents had not used their mobile phone to make a phone call. Nearly 3/4 of them had made no calls. 2/3 of them had sent no text messages on that day, and nearly 3/4 of them had received no text messages on the same day. So the usage is very low. A significant factor contributing to this low usage is the difficulty with charging mobile phone handsets in a place like Aurora where there's no mains electricity supply. 8 of the survey respondents volunteered the information that they had no mobile phone battery in their handset at the time that I spoke to them. Now, although the numbers of mobile phones are low, I believe that the mobile phones can still be significant in the lives of the people.